Again, welcome to Shika Islamic Economic System with emphasis on Islamic Finance Technology. I'm Dr. Sadri Manya Souga, a researcher in the areas of finance, accounting, and banking, as well as insurance. Some of my listeners wanted to know some of my publications, and I'll mention here two of them: leveraging Islamic finance for MSMEs as a tool for financial inclusion, development, and growth in underbanked countries. Another one is embracing Islamic finance in Africa, opportunities and challenges. Now, coming out soon also is sustainability, financial inclusion, and justice as hallmarks of the Islamic finance model for sustainable economic development and growth. We emphasize 3 points, which we said were misrepresentations of the Islamic finance technology, and that is that the Islamic economic system and the Islamic finance technology has been referred to as innovations. It is not true that they are innovations. They predate modern capitalism. It's also wrong to refer them as merely interest-free, because they have other features that justify their being Islamic. Finally, it's also not true that Islamic economic system and Islamic finance technology are only for Muslims. We gave examples of how Britain and France, through their leaders, David Cameron, who was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and Christine Lagarde, who was Minister for Finance in France, and later on Managing Director of the IMF, and finally the European Central Bank as an executive, made the case for Islamic finance very strongly, and made sure that their countries enjoyed special positions. We also availed statistics which indicate that from a mere $200 million in 2003, global Islamic finance assets had reached 4 trillion 20 years later, that is around the end of 2022. Again, many of our listeners wanted to know whether the USA had embraced Islamic finance. The answer is yes. The US embraced Islamic finance as early as 1986. In 1986, a company called Amana Income Funds opened office and commenced with the Jara contract to finance homes. It was followed in the year 1987 by the American finance house, Lariba. At the beginning, Lariba used the declining Musharak and rent contract to finance homes, cars, and commercial buildings. In 1997, the United Bank of Kuwait, the New York branch, started also providing Islamic financial services, and they did so using the Jara contract arrangement. It was basically in the New York States. Then in 2002, Guidance Residential, another institution to provide Islamic finance, started in 3 states. Now it is in more than 30 states. It adopted a diminishing Musharak as a contract to finance homes. In 2003, that is Devon Bank also founded a branch that operates according to Islamic law. In the same year, the University Islamic Financial Bank, UIF, opened office in Detroit, Michigan, as a pledged Islamic bank, providing financial services to the community in the USA. Now, after the financial crisis, a lot of jurisdictions really try to study Islamic finance technology and find out ways of how to leverage it. So in 2013, a lot of the big banks, financial institutions in the United States of America adopted Islamic finance technology. This included J.P. Morgan, HSBC, Standard Chartered Bank in New York, and MSI Financial Services. Now, 10 years later, a lot has gone on, and many operators of the Islamic financial institutions, that is, providers, have started their businesses in the United States of America. Look at IFT in the eyes of the international community, with examples from the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the OECD, the UNDP, and UNEP as examples. The impressive performance of IFT is evidence of its feasibility and resilience. It has attracted the attention of the UN and its affiliate. Multilateral financial bodies and their affiliates have, as expected, been keen to find out how and why IFT became what it is. Most of these have had to find ways to ally with and leverage Islamic financial technology for the achievement of the global goals which they are set out to achieve. In 2010, 2 years after the climax of the GFC, that is the global financial crisis, the IMF published its working paper WP-10/201 of 2010. In this paper, the IMF noted that Islamic finance is one of the fastest growing segments of the global financial industry. It stated that in some countries it had become systemically important, and in many others it is too big to be ignored. The IMF working paper revealed that it examined the performance of Islamic banks and conventional banks during the financial crisis before making those conclusions. The IMF had sought to establish the impact of the crisis in profitability, credit, and asset growth, and external ratings in a group of countries where the two types of banks have significant market share. Up to that level, covering about 120 Islamic banks and commercial banks in 8 countries, namely Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Malaysia, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the UAE, was collected. The key variables used to assess the impact were the changes in profitability, bank lending, bank assets, and external bank ratings. The IMF's analysis suggested that IBs, or the Islamic banks, had been affected differently compared to the conventional commercial banks. Well, the Islamic banks' credit and asset growth performed better than did that of these conventional banks in 2008-2009, contributing to financial and economic stability. This was attributed to their lower level and higher solvency. The IBs displayed lower leverage and then higher solvency. The IBs were able to meet a relatively stronger demand for credit and maintain stable external ratings. I have concluded that Islamic banks generally escaped the worst effects of the 2008 financial crisis because they were not exposed to subprime and toxic assets and had maintained close connection to the real sector as demanded by Islamic finance provisions. Actually, by referring toxic, or implying that indeed in those economies, characteristics defied or contradicted every requirement of the Islamic economic systems. For example, there was no justice as demanded by Islamic government. Yes, there was no justice as demanded. The lender providers of finance were taking advantage of the recipients of the financing they were providing. 2, there was huge disparity between the real and finance sector, especially by way of financial engineering. 3, transactions were utterly speculative. There was much of speculation during the global financial crisis and before it. Many aspects of the contracts were uncertain. For example, in the construction of the derivatives, which are used during the financial crisis, and then finally, transactions had hallmarks of lack of ethics. Yes, there was a lack of integrity and ethic in dealing in among the stakeholders. In 2017, the IMF still produced a report that is 5 years later, and it still maintained its earlier position of 2012, especially with regard to the Islamic banking sector. And it noted that the IB, or the Islamic banking industry, had performed relatively well with very limited incidences of bank stress. The fund congratulated itself for having played an important role in promoting financial stability in IB's jurisdictions, working closely with IB standard setters and international organizations to shape IB standards and promote best practices. Now, the report indicated that incidences of stress in IBs had been limited and occurred mostly in the smaller banks during the real estate downturn following the EFC or global financial crisis. On its part, the IMF warned that with concessional loans increasingly being favored over grant financing by some donors, there was growing risk of developing countries piling up unsustainable debt levels. It revealed that 40% of low-income countries are at high risk of being unable to make payments on their public debt. The IMF concluded that, accordingly, developing countries therefore needed a full suite of financing instruments to curb these trends, and Islamic financing option could improve debt sustainability. So the IMF was very much in agreement with many aspects of Islamic finance technology and was warning the indebtedness from the multilateral finance institutions, if not checked, would again cripple the economies of the developing countries. On its part, the World Bank also was commending Islamic finance technology. In 2012, the managing director of the World Bank noted that one, with risk-sharing, finance institutions that are more like business partners with their clients and have stronger incentives to evaluate funding requests carefully and exercise prudence in excelling such financing. In the same trend, as business partners, finance institutions are more likely to assist borrowers in working through bad times, thus lowering the pressure to sell assets at higher sale prices. According to managing director, this protects the system against a general fall in asset prices and reduces the probability of cascading defaults. Further noted that the sharing of losses reduces the probability of contagion to the rest of the financial systems. Moreover, Islamic finance protects the exchange transactions role of a banking system by limiting the risk on deposit balances. All the above were in confirmation of the major defenses of Islamic finance. The World Bank particularly noted that the fast growth of Islamic finance accelerated after the global finance crisis. This was because it had been observed that Islamic finance technology exhibited beyond average resistance. The bank then predicted that in the coming years, Islamic finance will account for a substantial share of financial services in many countries and would accordingly meet the preferences of significant numbers of people, thus enhance financial inclusion and intermediation, and it would contribute more broadly to financial stability and development. The World Bank then in 2016, together with the Islamic Bank Group, published a joint report titled Islamic Finance, a Catalyst for Shared Prosperity. Yes, the Islamic Bank and the World Bank had hope, had expectations that Islamic finance technology would be a catalyst to leverage for shared prosperity. The main message of the report was that Islamic finance, built on the foundation of social and economic justice, can contribute to shared prosperity through principles of inclusive participation and risk sharing. it was observed that Islamic finance had emerged as an effective tool for financing development worldwide, including non-Muslim countries. Yes, in non-Muslim countries. 2, there was the ever-growing interest and effort by major financial markets to position themselves as hubs for providing Islamic finance. 3, that there is a need for IFT or Islamic finance technology to be mainstreamed within the global financial system, and it had the potential to help address the challenges of extreme poverty and boosting shared prosperity. All that the risk-sharing and asset-based financing nature of Islamic finance and its potential contribution to growth and inclusive prosperity have considerable merit, particularly in the light of the mounting evidence of the negative effects of debt and leverage in economies. It was noted that because of the transformative and sustainable nature of the new development agenda, all possible resources must be mobilized if the world is to succeed in meeting its targets. But it was also mentioned that given the principle of Islamic financial technology that supports socially inclusive and development-promoting activities, the Islamic finance sector has the potential to contribute to the achievement of SDGs. It was also noted that mobilization of Islamic financial institutions, capital markets, and the social sector would provide strong growth and enhance financial inclusion as well as intermediation. Those were remarks made by the World Bank in that report. Now, the World Bank was very hopeful that in developing financial vibrant Islamic capital markets through equity asset-based finance would achieve a critical role in reducing poverty by providing opportunities for the poor to build assets. That strong and vibrant Islamic capital markets, although relatively young, still they are the second largest segment of the Islamic finance sector, the banking. The report particularly noted the impact of Sukuk, or Islamic bond. It had great potential for promoting and shared prosperity because of the stability to finance infrastructure, raising funds for new businesses, encouraging entrepreneurship, and supporting economic development. Then, the development of vibrant capital markets is the essential ingredient for Islamic finance, the bank observed, and there is thus the need for incentives to encourage risk sharing, particularly through the development of markets for equity trading. Now, the other bodies, multilateral agencies of the United Nations, which have also embraced the Islamic finance technology and have very high hope, these transformative features regarding the progress of humanity. For example, the UNDP is one of those others, the OECD and the NEP. Now let's deal with the UNDP, Guide to Islamic Finance Technology. The UNDP, in this report 2018, concluded that zakat and other forms of Islamic wealth redistributive mechanisms like waqf had great potential in the efforts to achieve SDGs. Under the zakat system, when an individual or entity's wealth or property is held during the course of the Islamic year and reaches or exceeds a specified amount, the entity or the individual is commanded by Allah to pay a tax called zakat. According to the UNDP report 2018, the global value of zakat alone is estimated at $1 trillion annually, and it was noted that striking similarities existed between Islamic finance and aspirations of the world bodies. For example, their common focus on alleviating poverty and hunger and reducing inequality by redistributing wealth. It is also noted by the UNDP that zakat should not be perceived as a corrective measure to reduce poverty, but rather as a positive measure to redistribute wealth in order to prevent poverty. They refer to it as a preventive stroke anticipatory. The UNDP noted that the introduction of zakat into the next generation of financial inclusion programs offers the breakthrough required, providing a branchless banking system that would improve the process of collection and distribution of zakat. According to the UNDP, this would be complemented by technological advances through online banking and mobile money, which can make it easier for people to make zakat contribution, particularly through formal channels. The UNDP has various programs in South and East Asia, for example, wherein it is cooperating with governments and religious institutions to explore how to leverage zakat without violating the religious laws governing it. As we mentioned, there are other elements of Islamic system which can contribute further to the achievement of the SDGs. For example, sadaq, which means a good deeds, and is not limited to giving away or property, but rather can encompass a smile or pleasant speech. There is waqf or habs, which is a charitable endowment in Islam and typically involves a building, a lot of land or other assets for religious or charitable purposes, which is given with no intention of reclaiming it and donated and held in perpetuity. Infaq, which is a voluntary spending or disbursement of wealth or property by persons of any means simply to please Allah, the Creator, without any expectation of reward or return. The UNDP's Istanbul Center, International Center for Private Sector Involvement, together with the Islamic Development Bank, formed the Global Islamic Finance and Impact Investing Platform for the purposes of promoting charitable causes. The platform engages the private sector, governments, and key stakeholders operating in Islamic finance and impact investing markets. It aims to promote market-based solutions to sustainable development challenges by creating a collaborative working space among these actors. Finally, the SDB is working with impact investing, crowdfunding, and blended finance to support national and Islamic organizations to invest in development initiatives. These are intended to benefit society, the economy, and the environment alike, with emphasis on communities and households and the greatest needs. Now, another organization, another institution or body that has been concerned and got involved in leveraging Islamic finance technology is the United Nations Environment Program. It is noted that the Middle East and North Africa, commonly called MENA, is a highly vulnerable region to the physical impacts of climate change. For example, at just +2 degrees centigrade of global temperature rise, heat extremes will occur across the summer months in the region, and then reaching new lows of more than 50 degrees centigrade in certain regions. Then, precipitation will reduce across the fertile Mediterranean coast, impacting agriculture and water supply and increasing desertification and soil erosion. In the longer term, sea levels will rise, expose major coastline cities to regular coastal flooding, and that has happened during 2023 in many of the areas in the region. Given the gravity of the matter, three institutions, the UN Environmental Programme, the UN Financial Initiative, and the UNEP, the Islamic Development Bank, and the General Council for Islamic Banks and Financial Institutions, or CBAP, have now teamed up to provide a comprehensive guide on climate change for Islamic banks and Islamic finance institutions in MENA. The guide provides an overview of the current state of climate action in Islamic finance, a summary of the Islamic basis for action on climate change, and a clear pathway for Islamic banks to transition their business in response to a rapidly changing climate. The three institutions aim to continue this collaboration over the coming years and to develop an Islamic finance sector that is both resilient and proactive in the face of a changing climate. Another institution we shall look at is the OECD with regard to Islamic finance technology. In 2020, the OECD published this paper called How Islamic Finance Contributes to the Achievement of SDGs, paper number 30. In that paper, it noted that the profile of Islamic finance in the global financial system is rising notably following the global financial crisis of 2008 and the Arab Spring of 2010. Islamic finance, it noted, was offering lower systemic risks and a sustainable financing system that would be more robust and resilient than conventional financing. It also noted that non-Muslims, Islamic finance can be seen as a form of socially responsible or ethical finance, although ethical and Islamic finance have both similarities and differences. We went on to note that there are opportunities that accelerate the delivery of the sustainable development goals through the development and use of Islamic finance concepts and tools, notably some of the most promising one, that is zakat, waqf, sukuk, and Islamic microfinancing. Now, we are going to deal next with a very serious issue in our series, that is the evolution of the prohibition of interest over time, the rationale and controversies. Again, we thank you for attentively listening to our series and hope to give you the best as far as the Islamic economic system and the Islamic finance technology is concerned. Thank you very much.